to order of the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, June 14th, 2023 at 3:32 p.m. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Vollmer, Alderwoman Keys,
Here.
Alderman Browning,
Present.
Alderman Aldridge, Chair Schweitzer,
Present.
Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Aldridge. We have 3 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. It looks like we do have an approval of the minutes for June 7th, 2023. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes, June 7th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Vollmer, Alderwoman Keys,
Here. I'm sorry. Aye.
Alderman Browning,
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge,
Aldridge.
Chair Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Aldridge. We have 3 aye votes.
Wonderful. By your vote, we've sustained the motion of the alderman from the 9th to approve the minutes of June 7th, 2023. We will move on to the board bills for review. We will move to by seniority to members presenting board bills who are not on the committee. So I believe that would start us with board bill number 41, introduced by Alderman Brett Narayan. Alderman Ryan, you're recognized on Board Bill 41.
Thank you, Chairwoman Schweitzer and members of the Public Utilities Committee. This is a pretty straightforward board bill. It authorizes ward capital, about $113,000 of ward capital to be used to connect the existing greenway that goes through Webster Groves and Maplewood. It'll connect it to the River to Pear Greenway along Canterbury Avenue here in the city of St. Louis. I have a representative from GRG here if there's any specific questions as it relates to the project. It's a great project. Ultimately, it's going to connect Forest Park all the way to the Arch Grounds and Tower Grove Park all the way to Fairgrounds Park. So people will be able to traverse the city via bike or walking east to west, north to south, without worrying about cars.
Wonderful, thank you. I'll turn it over to the committee members for questions. Alderwoman Keys.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Alderman Browning.
I was just wondering if we could invite Great Rivers Greenway to just make a few comments about it, just for the public's education, to speak a little bit to the plans, when we're expecting construction to begin, completion, but also just kind of what things this will feature.
Absolutely.
Well, we will need to swear you in today, so if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You do? Wonderful.
All right. My name is Angelica Gutierrez. I'm a senior project manager with Great Rivers Greenway. I am in charge of the Deer Creek Greenway project here in the city of St. Louis, city of Maplewood, and city of Webster Groves. So this one project extends about a mile long. A segment is in the city of St. Louis, and this is one that you have before you today for approval. That segment will connect, as Alderman said, River de Pear Greenway with the existing Deer Creek Greenway. So we're filling up a gap, and it's going to be very important for the full connectivity of the area. So we are in the middle of design right now. We are about 50% design. We plan to submit final plans next year to the MoDOT and East West Gateway because this project has federal funds assigned to it. It's a total cost of $6 million project. We are receiving $3 million in federal funds, CMAQ, the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Funds. We are hoping to receive a contribution from the city for the traffic signal improvements at the Canterbury and Ellendale intersection and the road and everything that is collateral to the Greenway. We're also receiving contributions from the city of Maplewood. They are redoing the street that goes along the Greenway on that segment in Maplewood. City of Webster Groves is also contributing funding, and San Luis County for the traffic signal on the other end of the project on Big Bend and Oxford. So final design next year. The idea is to build this project soon after that. It'll be, final design 2024, bidding in 2025, and start construction same year. Hopefully have it done in 2026. Anything else that I can answer for you?
No, that was a great overview, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I think we all can agree that connectivity is the key part of this, so excited to see this project get done and get started.
Yeah, thank you.
Alderman Aldridge, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. How long has this project been going?
Oh, boy. I'm going to say when I started working at Great Rivers Greenway was already in the beginning of planning. So that was 7 years ago.
Wow, okay, so we're
So-
getting close to the end.
It's been, yes.
That feels probably really good.
Thankfully, Yes, yes, yes. It's been a while, and the city has always been great to work with. You want the connectivity. It's been, in the master plan for the beginning of the planning phase. So, yeah, it's getting to the end, so that's good news.
And you said the match portion from Ward Capital is for lights and traffic lights, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
The idea is for you to cover the part, it's not all the traffic signal by itself, it's like south of $300,000.
Sure.
And the road improvements is another $300,000. So you are just giving the local share of these federal funds. So you're contributing around 20-30% of the cost.
Right, that's the percent. Wonderful. I do not have any additional questions. Seeing no more, you're recognized to close. Thank you.
I would just ask for this committee's favorable consideration, and I hope that you'll pass this out with a due pass recommendation.
Alderman, I will entertain a motion to pass Board Bill number 41 out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Vollmer, Alderwoman Keys,
Aye.
Alderman Browning,
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge,
Aye.
Chair Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderman Vollmer. We have 4 aye votes.
Wonderful. By your vote, you have sustained the motion, and we have passed Board Bill number 41 out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in front of us today. Good luck. Wonderful. Is Alderwoman Clark Hubbard here? Wonderful. Next, we will move on to Board Bill number 38, introduced by Alderwoman Shamim Clark Hubbard.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. There's a amendment in the drive that you might have seen. Board Bill 38.
Amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 38 is now in front of our committee. Does everyone have it in front of them? It's both on your desk and in the drive. Wonderful.
And this is just a speed hump bill, and I needed to add an additional block the neighbor's request. That's where the amendment comes from. I'm asking for a favorable consideration and due pass recommendation for Board Bill 38. As amended, rather.
Entertain a motion to adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 38.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing any call for previous roll?
Previous row.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, we have Board Bill number 38 as amended now in front of us. Anyone have any questions? I'll start with Alderwoman Keys.
No, I do not have any questions at this time.
Okay, Alderman Aldridge?
No questions.
Vice Chair Browning?
No questions.
Okay. Do you have any, you don't have any speakers on this today, do you?
No.
Okay, I should have asked Alderman Narayan too, if he had any speakers. Do you have any process that you do for speed hump installation, or do you just go by what people ask for, or a petition process? I'm just trying to get a feel for how different aldermen do speed humps in their ward.
Yeah, I don't have a written petition, but I do survey the block. Because
Okay.
I have been in situations where, a number of people want it, and there'll be somebody that doesn't want it. Making sure their voice is heard, and also making sure, hey, if they don't want the speed hump in front of their house, or they don't mind it. So, these particular blocks, both blocks are in support of this. One is at a school, unfortunately, that has other speed calming, traffic calming measures on that block, and it still isn't enough. So they have reached out to me again, actually called me on the block and asked me about adding some additional humps, and that's where this bill came from.
Okay, wonderful. I have no additional questions, so with that, I will entertain a motion to move Board Bill number 38 as amended out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second, previous row.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, we have approved Board Bill number 38 as amended with the due pass recommendation.
Thank you so much.
Moving right along. Okay.
You're up.
Well, I'll have you go next if you don't. Alderman Laura Keys, to recognize on Board Bill number 27.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. So this Board Bill number 20, I think it's 27. Turn my- Yeah, Board Bill number 27. This is for an honorary street renaming on behalf of Mr. Ronald L. Jones. And this is, a standard request. So I would ask for a due pass recommendation for Board Bill number 27.
Thank you. Alderman Keys, we talked yesterday about making sure the signatures were in the drive, and I'm not sure where they are.
Message over to our clerk, because they were given directly to him back in, I want to say April.
Okay.
So,
Well, we-
and I've
we
not
do
heard, he's
need-
not responded, so I can check with that.
Okay, we wouldn't be able to pass the bill out of committee without having all parts of it with
Okay,
us in front of us,
I'll
so
circle back around.
if you can
and-
get it before the end of our committee meeting today, we can come back.
Oh, good. I didn't want to leave session to go and do that and come back. Would you please?
Alderman Clark
Yeah,
Hubbard,
that was wild. Thank you.
we'll come back to you, Alderman Keys, that's fine. You're welcome. So with that, we'll move to Board Bill number 62, which is me, so our wonderful Vice Chair Michael Browning will take over as chair for this Board Bill.
This crowd is pretty unruly, so.
It is unruly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We do have a committee substitute for Board Bill 62, just making sure everyone has that in front of them. Madam Clerk, do you mind reading the introduction, or the summary for Board Bill 62, committee substitute?
An ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service of the City of St. Louis establishing multiple public works and improvement projects on Sarah Street, the Lindell Union Bridge, Delmar Boulevard, and Louisiana Avenue within the City of St. Louis, and containing an emergency clause.
Thank you so much. So as the clerk read, there's a few projects that are identified in this board bill that are all in need of this board bill to move them forward. So this has to do with the Board of Public Service being able to enter into all contracts that will allow them to carry out these contracts and keep the work moving forward. This bill also identifies the funding sources for all of these projects. And so this bill is the Board of Aldermen acknowledging where the funding is coming from and making sure that that is publicly available in this bill. If you look through each of the projects, they're all in different phases, all have different things happening. John Kohler wasn't available to present to us today, so I took some notes from our conversation that I'd like to share with you. So when you see that the project funding source in the bill talks about design, construction, and right-of-way, those are the three things mentioned in the bill. Design is when Board of Public Service is soliciting engineering consultants to enter into a contract to design plans and specifications that they can bid out and build through BPS. Construction is once the project is designed, the consultant gives the set of plans, and then those plans are bid out for any construction contractor to bid on, and they need to meet a certain set of qualifications in order to move forward, and then they enter into that project with a contractor and they move forward. The right-of-way piece in the bill regarding where that's listed as the right-of-way is needed, that means that the Board of Public Service has to work to get either a temporary or permanent easement to build the project. So for example, if there's personal property in front of a building or a house or something like that, that the Board of Public Service is going to need access to complete the project, that's what the right-of-way easement is all about. So you'll see in each of those projects, it identifies the federal source of funding, which is usually at 80% of the project, and you'll see where it shows where the local match is coming from, which is usually 20% of the project. And these projects are all, like I said, listed out in the bill. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them and answer them as best I can in John's absence.
We'll start with Alderwoman Alderwoman Keys.
So this is relating to contracts, and I just have a quick question. So, for example, let's say if we're talking about a concrete contract, when that contract is awarded, is it awarded to only one contracted entity, or can multiple contractors win, work, because more than enough work to go around? So just out of curiosity, if you know.
Yeah, I think with these projects, the contractors are awarded specifically for these projects and for specifically completing the scope of whatever the work is in each project, whether that's the design, whether that's the construction of the project. So this is specific, I believe, to one contractor.
Contract. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Or
No, I'm good.
Alderman Aldridge?
No questions.
I do have a couple questions, just mainly out of curiosity. So when we talk about, for instance, we're talking Delmar, item C, Delmar Boulevard de Bolivar to Van Deventer. We're talking, you addressed the right of way. What kind of traffic management enhancements are we looking at here?
I can get you all the specifics of it. I don't have that in front of me right now, but I'll get you all of the specifics of that project.
Okay, I'm happy to vote for this today without those specifics. I just am curious.
I understand, yeah.
Great. I think this is wonderful. The Wendell Union Bridge in specific is a very dangerous intersection, and even led to a fatality a few years ago because of its decayed state. So I'm excited to see funds for this, and I don't have any more questions.
Thank you so much.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to recommend this pass out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second, previous row.
Hearing no objections. All right. By your vote, this is passed out of the committee with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
And I will turn the chair back over to Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you.
Should I give these to you?
Sure.
Should I go back over?
Oh, yeah, you can go back over there.
I'll go back over. Once again, thank you, Madam Chair. So I have gotten you the signatures, and I want to thank Alderwoman Clark Hubbard for helping me to procure those on such short notice. And I would ask for a due pass recommendation on Board Bill 27 honoring Ronald L. Jones, honorary street renaming.
Thank you so much, and thank you for making sure that you got the signatures. The ordinance that allows for streets to be renamed does require 51% of folks along that street to sign that they're on board with the petition. So you're verifying this is over 51%?
More than 51%. He
I-
is truly a pillar in that community, and we're very thankful for the service he has done for our city and the benevolent work on so many families and organizations throughout our city where Mr. Jones has played a very pivotal role, especially for families who are unable to pay for or manage funeral services for loved ones who have passed unexpectedly.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions from members of the committee? Alderman Aldridge.
No questions.
Alderman Browning?
No questions.
I have no questions either, but thank you for doing this. It sounds like it'll mean a lot to people on the street,
does.
members of the community, and the family as well. Any final comments?
No, with the do pass recommendation, I would request that you move Board Bill 27 forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will entertain a motion to pass Board Bill number 27 out of committee with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second, previous row.
Hearing no objection to previous rule, we have passed Board Bill number 27 out of committee with a do pass recommendation. Thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, we got through all of our board bills in our agenda, I believe. So now we are discussing resolution number 24. This is the resolution regarding the committee goals and the purview of the committee that we are on here. So if everyone has that in front of them, I believe we do have at least one speaker. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
That would be Charles Bryson.
Okay, wonderful. You may approach and speak now. We'll do that first. Hello, Charles Bryson. Do you raise your hand? Thank you. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please continue.
All right, good afternoon, Chairwoman Schweitzer and members of the Infrastructure and Public Utilities Committee. My name is Charles Bryson, Policy Catalyst to TrailNet, the regional nonprofit advocacy organization for safe streets. I come today first to say thank you. Resolution 24 is an incredible starting point for many budget and programmatic discussions. The city and this body, Board of Aldermen, has long refused to believe the causes of inequities as described in the document existed. Grounding your work in the discriminatory history of St. Louis and beginning to provide resources where heretofore have been few is crucial to helping all St. Louisans see themselves as part of a whole. The third sentence from the bottom is equally important. Committee will focus its work on policy. It is a commitment to not just see your ward and neighborhoods within, but to see all 14 wards and 79 neighborhoods, and how a particular policy and/or practice can affect the entire city. Yes, I know you must bring home the bacon, as they say, and run for re-election based on your performance for the ward you serve. But as you move into this new phase of working on policy, you're also moving into the realm of accountability, holding city departments accountable on a regular basis, not as a negative and not just in times of crisis. City residents and businesses deserve continual efforts to hold city departments accountable and for those efforts and results to be broadly broadcast. We wish you well along the journey you are taking. This change has been a long time coming and much needed. Thank you, and I will answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions from members of the committee? I'll just look around and see if anybody's nodding their heads. No? Okay, thank you so much.
Michael, you sure? You had a...
No, I just wanted to say thank you for your advocacy, specifically around Ward Capital. I'm in agreement that it is holding our city back, not serving our citizens equitably, And I'm hoping that we'll be able to find solutions that will improve the safety of our streets and as the rest of this resolution says. So thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for all the work you do around this. And yeah, hopefully we can work together to make our city safer for everyone.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. All right, I see a Miss Yasin here as well. Wonderful. Mind raising your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Schweitzer and members of the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee. My name is Milkiseh Yassin. I'm a resident of the 10th Ward, and I'm currently working as a policy intern with TrailNet. I've come here today to testify against the method used to distribute ward capital in the city and the current 50-50 sidewalk program. Well, I want to begin by first thanking you for approving the resolution concerning equity in the investment infrastructure resources. There's a strong need to invest in areas that have been disinvested in, such as much of the North Side, Gravois Park, and Dutchtown. Your efforts signal to developers, banks, and financial institutions that the city cares about each of the neighborhoods and backs that up with resources. Anyone who has driven or walked in the city is acutely aware of the poor maintenance of our roads, streets, and sidewalks. The deterioration of infrastructure is more than just a small inconvenience we deal with daily. It's a clear indication of inequity in areas of the city that have dealt with a long history of systemic racism and disinvestment. TrailNet releases a crash report annually that highlights the state of traffic violence in the city, and we consistently see that predominantly Black, minority, and lower-income neighborhoods suffer the most from a disproportionate amount of traffic violence. A major reason for this is the poor state of the roads, sidewalks, and intersections located primarily in the North Side. It's imperative that ward capital be distributed equitably rather than equally, as equitable distribution of ward capital would ensure that neighborhoods that are in dire need for improved road and pedestrian infrastructure will have access to the necessary funding. Additionally, in your roles as policymakers and oversight, TrailNet encourages you to have the Streets Department reconfigure the 50-50 sidewalk program. TrailNet recently conducted a full sidewalk assessment of the Ville and Greaterville neighborhoods and found that 47% of the sidewalks needed significant repair. In low-income neighborhoods, covering 50% of the sidewalk repair costs may not be feasible for most residents, and thus it's necessary that there's equitable allocation of funding specifically for sidewalk repair. I implore this body to consider using metrics like the census and American Community Survey as means to allocate the resources and funding necessary to improve our neighborhoods. Useful metrics may be focusing on areas with low-income residents, more renters, more elderly and/or persons with disabilities, and areas with people who primarily use public transportation or don't have access to a vehicle. It's time for equity to be at the forefront of our conversations surrounding infrastructure improvement in the city, and I hope this committee takes the necessary action to help the city progress forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone in the committee have any questions? All right, Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for testifying today. And I just wanted to echo your comments. I know during our budget committee, as we went on kind of this public hearing to hear about ways that we can make our budget better, the ward capital came up multiple times and how we can improve that system so that it is not done in an antiquated way that it is. You know, what does that look like potentially putting it to the streets department? Mr. Bryson shared the map of the sidewalks in the Ville, and it's crazy when you look at the map of how many sidewalks that just need repair. You know, I hope that, you know, as we figure out what we do at ward capital, I do echo your sentiments of we need to be using these ward capital funds in an equitable manner, knowing that a lot of areas in North St. Louis just need a little bit more love and care, not to try to take away from other areas, but unless we invest in areas that are at the very bottom to bring them up at least to the playing field, we will always continue to play catch up in our most underserved communities. So thank you so much for your comments.
Of course, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I actually would love it if the clerk could read the resolution, which I should have done before people started speaking on it, but I know you all have read the resolution, so I'm not worried about that. But for people watching at home or anyone watching this later, I would love for them to have a good understanding of what the resolution does say. Madam Clerk, do you mind reading resolution number 24 for us?
Resolution number 24, priorities for the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee. Whereas basic services for the city residents are the primary responsibility of city government, the continuity of services such as trash pickup, coordination with utilities, and street and sidewalk maintenance has been a top concern for residents and has contributed to the growing concerns regarding traffic violence and inadequate essential public services. And whereas creating a safer city for all residents through better street and sidewalk infrastructure is a top priority. According to a 2022 traffic data report, the total number of people killed on St. Louis city streets was the second highest on record, with a total of 78 people losing their lives to traffic violence. Severe injuries and fatalities are preventable through a multidisciplinary system approach. And whereas dedicated funding for street infrastructure and utilities projects could eliminate the barriers the city faces to streamline public services. The Streets Department and the Board of Public Service can work together to lead decision-making regarding street calming measures, ADA compliance, and infrastructure planning. And whereas due to historical redlining of the city, inequities affect certain neighborhoods of the city more than others. Currently, ward capital is used as a main source of funding for major projects, contributing to both the ineffectiveness and inequity of the system. Furthermore, community input of how ward capital should be spent can create a more participatory process. And whereas there has been increased stress on our infrastructure due to environmental changes, including more frequent flooding, heat islands, and other weather-related events that cause harm to the residents of St. Louis. Now therefore be it resolved, the 2023-2024 Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee will focus its work on policy that addresses improving city services, empowering city departments within its purview, creating more equitable and efficient standards, allowing constituent feedback regarding ward capital, and redesigning our streets for safety. Introduced this 25th day of May 2023 by the Honorable Ann Schweitzer, Alderwoman of the First Ward.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Before I go to, actually, I'll just start going with members of the committee for your thoughts, and we'll move into more of a conversational mode here. But Alderman Keyes?
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
So noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Aldridge?
No questions.
Any comments or remarks you'd like to make about it, though?
I will piggyback off the comments that, as in the resolution, it talks about ward capital. I know that last year there was a board bill to, make ward capital equal, or equitable, not equal. I look forward to that conversation. I think, again, like I said, it's parts of our city that has just been disinvested in a long time that just need a little bit more support and need to be able to use these ward capitals to either fix sidewalks or alleyways. I know there's been a conversation of how do we best use ward capital. I think until we figure out how those funds are used, I am a strong believer that these ward capitals need to be dispersed in an equitable manner, and I look forward to having that conversation with this committee and other members of the board of how we make ward capital equitable and not just equal.
Thank you, Vice Chair Browning.
Yeah, so I think that equitable distribution of ward capital is important, but only if we take infrastructure out of ward capital. Let's be perfectly clear, ward capital is not enough money to maintain our infrastructure in the city in the first place. So if we give less to certain wards and more to others, it still won't be enough to actually maintain safe streets. Furthermore, we do not travel our city by ward. We travel them by the connecting streets and sidewalks that we have. So as we go through the city, we will notice, yes, severe inequities between different wards, depending on how the alderperson has chosen to spend that ward capital. That shouldn't be the case. We shouldn't have people have inferior infrastructure because of how the money is spent in their ward, especially if there are bigger priorities that sometimes that money needs to be spent on. But we also need the proper resources in the first place. When we talk about repaving roads that go through our entire city, Ward Capital doesn't even begin to address repaving, much less designing a safer road system for people. We have a one-time pot of money in ARPA funds and soon to be the Rams settlement money, but this cannot be the solution in the future. We need to have a system that properly funds the maintenance of our streets and the continued improvement as we discover and as we understand what makes streets safer, so that we are putting the safety of our citizens as our first and foremost priority. We should not be losing lives on our streets. We should have people be able to get from A to B without fearing for their life or their children's life. So I am fully in support of this resolution. I'm excited to get to work, and I'm excited that we all agree that these are the priorities of our committee, because it needs to be a priority. Infrastructure affects us all.
Thank you. This resolution is something that I think it's a new thing for committees to have resolutions that outline what their goals are and what they'll be working on. And I think that's a really important thing that has changed with this new administration, with the president of the board encouraging committees to do this. Of course, it's up to us if we vote on this, if we support it, but just that working together to think through what do we really want to be working on and how do we set priorities, I think is really important. To go through the clauses here, the ability to provide basic services. I mean, we are in the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee. Our role is a lot more concrete, no pun intended, than a lot of other committees in their focus. We're really thinking about services. We're thinking about the streets, the utilities. We're thinking about maintenance, and I think that is all very important, but the first, after that description, the first whereas, we're talking about traffic violence. And I know that there has been, as this resolution says, we have incredibly high years of traffic death numbers in the city. So we really need to look at traffic death as a emergency. We need to be thinking through how we work in our systems, whether that's through our street systems, traffic calming, enforcement, all of that with an eye towards decreasing the loss of life. Many of you have probably heard of the idea of Vision Zero, which is treating traffic fatalities as a very serious thing, that it needs to be treated as an emergency to get to the goal of zero traffic deaths. So that's something that I hope our committee can discuss in short order, and how we can be assist in that process in the city. Some of the, even in a very nuts and bolts way, some of the funding from federal government programs depends on a city having a Vision Zero plan in order to receive the funding. So basically, because the city does not really have a plan to address this sort of the emergency of traffic deaths that we're dealing with, it means the city is not getting as much funding for these incredible needs that we have. So I think it's important to think about that as well. In the next clause, talking about dedicated funding for street infrastructure and utilities projects, we've talked a lot about Ward Capital, and we've talked about it not being enough as it stands to actually fund all of the paving, even within the city of St. Louis. And one of the things that I especially included in this resolution, in the next clause about Ward Capital in particular, is that there's an ineffectiveness to the system as well. They're certainly dividing by 14 is allowing each ward to have the same amount of money. That is an equal division. But one of the things that is especially problematic to me about Ward Capital is the ineffectiveness of it. Alder Vice Chair Browning spoke really well on this, but we have a situation where 2 different wards are putting money away, saving for projects that, had those wards both had the money been available to both wards, those projects could have gotten done a lot faster. And then we end up spending a lot of time just waiting for these projects to get done because there's not enough ward capital. So I think that's a really important thing too. To go back to that Vision Zero, is how do we make decisions that are effective, that address the real issues in our city, which one of the main ones I believe is in traffic deaths. So the environmental changes, we had an entire meeting last night in Boulevard Heights, one of the neighborhoods I represent. There was flooding over the Mother's Day weekend there, and it was due to having a 500-year rain event. We're having more and more of these rain events that happen that are unprecedented amounts of rain in a very short amount of time, and how our systems deal with that is the answer is really they don't deal with it. They're not set up to deal with it. So what can we do to make our city more resilient and our infrastructure better able to handle the increased stress that are due to all of these environmental changes? I think that is also thinking about how we prepare for the future in a lot of different ways. You know, we've been spending a lot of time as a committee, both in committee and outside of committee, talking about the water rate increase, that utility, that infrastructure there. I believe we'll have more conversations in short order, talking about the combination of utility work and repaving of our streets and how utilities interact with our streets, including our own utilities, including our own street work that's happened. So I think there's a lot of really important conversations that this committee is going to have. I think these discussions are going to be, again, about nuts and bolts of maintenance and infrastructure and things like that, but there's so many underlying issues that we're dealing with in the city of St. Louis that make these nuts and bolts conversations incredibly fraught. So I urge us all to think about effectiveness, and improving effectiveness of our system, as well as improving equity and not sacrificing one for the other. Making a broken system more equitable doesn't mean it's not still a broken system. So I really appreciate everyone's time on this. And unless there's any further comments, we may be ready to take a vote here. Entertain a motion to pass resolution number 24 from committee.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objection to previous rule, we have passed resolution number 24 out of committee. Thank you. Any further discussions? Any committee discussions? Any written testimony, Madam Clerk?
No, there's no written testimony.
Okay, any announcements? And excused members, I would like to excuse Alderman Vollmer for necessary absence. And I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.